So, welcome to today's coaching clinic, and it's lovely to be with you all around a subject that is so close to my own heart, being less anxious about time. And I think this is something that we really want to explore from a fresh perspective, because one of the things that we innocently do is we hold a gun to our head about where we're at in life. And not only that, we hold a gun to our head when we feel we're not doing enough, producing enough, creating enough. And that really impacts our ability to relax and receive divine guidance and direction. So I'm all about you being able to get stuff done and be productive when you are moved in that direction. And the rest of the time, learning how to deeply relax as a means to hearing the direction, getting the download for what's next, coming to a point of following flow instead of thinking up what you should do. Because when we don't relax deeply, when we don't rest deeply, and it first begins with mind, not self, let's go for a massage, let's go for a walk. You can be doing those things, but if your mind is full, busy, planning, evaluating, judging, you're not rested in those moments. And the beauty of deep rest, which I just love to help you get in many different ways, but the beauty of deep rest is that we open up our mental bandwidth. If you imagine our state of mind a bit like an internet connection, in a low state of mind, the bandwidth narrows. And we don't have a lot of capacity in that state to hear ideas, let alone actually get on with ideas and things that need done. But as the bandwidth opens up, our capacity to receive downloads, get a feeling for the direction, and our ability to implement, get things done, be productive, is so much greater. That's why sometimes you can be thinking about doing something for nearly a year, and the next thing you're just moved to do it. Pat had a beautiful example of that in our Living Miraculously course. She'd been thinking about going back to driving for a year after her husband had died. She hadn't been doing that. And she'd been thinking and thinking and thinking and shooting herself and judging herself about it. And then one day, in a clear state of mind, without really having any thought on it, she was moved to the car. And from what I understand, she's still out there driving. Well done, Pat. So that's a beautiful example of just how the key to any restfulness and easiness around getting things done is based first on a quieter mind, on a clearer state of mind, on a bandwidth that's wide open. And then on moving into action from that place, moving into whatever it is you want to get to. So lying on the sofa isn't a bad thing, friends. But if you're lying there and you're judging it and you're beating up on it and you're really not getting any rest from it, that's when it starts to get a little bit like a waste of time. All right. So I want to invite you today to really just learn the beauty of deep rest as a means to moving forward, and also why this whole doing, action, getting stuff done is really optional and overrated. There's another space from which we can rely on grace. In other words, rely on life to move us into the productivity or the things we need to complete. We all know Bob at this stage. I even now have an image of Bob that if you haven't seen it yet, it's in the Facebook group, and you know, message me if you want, I can send it over, you can see it. We all know Bob is this voice in our head who's always judging, who's always having a go at us about where we're at this stage in our life and how we haven't got there yet with our businesses and how we're running out of time. And all of that comes with a feeling of pressure. That voice comes with a feeling of pressure. And that's when you know you're tuned into Bob rather than tuned into truth and wisdom. Now, as we begin to get some freedom from Bob, in other words, we notice the feeling of pressure and we back off. Well, I mean, what do we do if we put our hands on a hot stove? It's built into us to pull back immediately. Well, it's the same with feelings of pressure, feelings of stress, feelings of not enoughness, feelings of anxiousness. Those are the alarm bells that you know, Bob's in the house, and we are simply going to need to back off from that voice. As we back off from that voice, we have a fresh experience of time, of pressure. Pressure can be very helpful when we're using it in a feeling of enjoyment to complete things, but pressure is very unhelpful when it's the experience of Bob with a gun to your head about what you need to get done. So you want to become discerning, first and foremost, discerning of which voice you're tuned into. And I liken it to this. A lot of times we are watching the news and there's the main broadcaster. And you're listening to the main broadcaster and you're tuned in and you're hearing what's going on. And next thing you know, there's a whole line of what I think is called ticker tape running across the bottom of the channel. And it's telling you about all these incoming wars and incoming things that are happening and bombings here and presidents there. And all of that's running across the bottom of the screen. And suddenly you're not listening to the main broadcaster anymore. You're tuned in now to the ticker tape. Well, Bob's a bit like that ticker tape. You're listening to your main broadcaster, wisdom, your spiritual team, if you want to call it that, your divine guidance. And suddenly Bob's coming in with, yeah, but you don't have time for that. Yeah, but you don't have enough money for that. Yeah, but you don't forget this, and don't forget you need to go on a diet, and don't forget you haven't done what you said you were going to do, and don't forget she's a bitch and he's a bastard. And suddenly you're tuned out of this beautiful, like, main broadcaster of wisdom and into this noise that's simply there to distract you, that's habitual in nature, and that frankly just holds a lot of information that, you know, really isn't necessary in that moment for you to hear. So again, how do we become discerning? We get really sensitive to the feeling we're living in. And feelings of stress and pressure and not enoughness are wonderful indicators that we have tuned into Bob, and it's time to fall back from that voice. And as we do so, guess what? Our mental bandwidth opens up again. We have capacity to hear direction, to get things down instead of think things up. That's one of the key changes in my business. Since I have gotten this distance from Bob, since I've become sensitive to the feeling of Bob versus wisdom, I used to be someone who had to think up ideas and come up with programs and think up how I was going to get the bills paid and think, and lean into more thinking. Now, honestly, I relax deeply and get it down on paper, get the download about what's next, get the download about what I want to offer, get the download. So there's a big difference between thinking up and getting down. Now, sometimes you can think up things and they work. I'm not saying that the intellect is completely wasted, but what you'll find is that anything that you get down versus think up is way more in flow, has way easier results, is miraculous in nature. And in order for us to get down, right, there needs to be a certain level of mental bandwidth available. There needs to be less of a gun to our head about time, money, weight, image, health issues, whatever we're up against. So the more we're living in a feeling of well-being, the more trustworthy our thinking is. The more we're living in a feeling of pressure, hurry up, get it done. There's not enough time. You haven't made it this far. You're not going to make it further. The more you're living in that feeling, the less trustworthy your thinking is. And you begin to become discerning of that. When we're busy-minded, we tend to run on automatic, which means we tend to say yes to a lot of things without considering what wisdom would do first. And then we wonder why we're exhausted, because a lot of things, a lot of demands on our time and energy aren't even in alignment with our true passions. We just automatically say yes because we're innocently not grounded in the moment. So we're not feeling into what is we want to do. We're just responding to people and to life and that sort of quick, fast energy. I remember a few years ago, Francesco and I, my partner at the time, we got so caught up about Christmas. I didn't realize how much of a gun to my head I used to put about getting the perfect presents for people. I really took Christmas seriously. I mean, how ridiculous. The lighthearted was supposed to be the most lighthearted time of year. I took it really serious. The presents had to be brilliant and people had to be happy with what they got and we couldn't forget anybody. And so there was this one day that we decided, right, we're going to go Christmas shopping on this particular morning. And I'd been on my journey of getting freedom from Bob, but that didn't mean that Bob didn't creep back in it. And I was getting dressed and I had, I needed to have the perfect look to go to the perfect shops to buy the perfect presents. There was a lot of pressure I was living in at that time. There was still a lot of gun. And so there we were on that Saturday morning and we were rushing about and we were trying to get ready and the shops are going to close at 1 o'clock in Italy. It's already 10 o'clock. And we got into the car and we didn't see our dog behind the car. Now, this was unbelievable. We somehow, in our rushing around innocently, managed to run over the dog's tail. I can tell you, I never got a stronger wake-up call about who gives a fuck about Christmas presents than in that moment. Thankfully, he was really okay. It was absolutely miraculous. But Francesco and I looked at each other and we just were like, after the fact, we were like, what are we doing? That's how innocently we can get caught in urgency, not enough timeness, needing things to be perfect, that we then rush about life without enjoyment, zero enjoyment, when things need to be perfect. And then we make mistakes. Now, our mistake, we're lucky, wasn't bigger than that. But my God, it was traumatic. But it was such a reminder of how living less busy, not more perfect, is where it's at. And when you don't see that that's what you're living in, but of course there's always an awareness. Like I could tell by the rushing and the lack of enjoyment, something wasn't right. But when you're not seeing that deeply enough, you're just in that experience of life always being lived in a busy way. It's not enjoyable. It really doesn't do much for your business, and it certainly does nothing for your relationships and your quality of life. It's optional. So there's something about noticing the anxiety you get into about time, if that's your thing, about money, if that's your thing, about weight and image or love and romance. What you'll find is Bob will go round. So you might get a bit of freedom around time, and then he'll move over to another subject like money. And then he'll move, after you've got a bit of freedom around money and time, he'll move into a subject about your image and how bad you're looking at this age and the wrinkles you're getting. And then once he's done a bit of work over there and beaten you up and judged you enough, he'll move on over to how shit your relationship is. You want to just be aware, not get into bed with Bob about what you should do to fix these problems. You want to just be aware that that's just a mind habitually wanting to take you out of the present moment. Because when you're in the present moment, there are no problems to fix. You're perfect. Everything you're creating or everything you're relaxing around is perfect. No mistakes, nothing more to do. And that presence is what we're looking for. For those of you that are in the coaching industry, the healing industry, the helping industry, that presence is a priority in us because it's what we get to bring to others. So it's not a selfish act to learn to rest more deeply, to live life less busy-minded. It's an act of love for all of those in our care. And there's nothing more powerful than presence. Presence will save us from mistakes like running over dogs. Presence will save us from decisions that are not in alignment. Presence will save us from relationships that we know just aren't for us. And presence will direct us on what's best for our body and image that keeps us in harmony and balance physically. So there's a lot to be had in being present versus being busy. And one of the ways I love to also support you in getting more present is through a meditation. And we will get to that today. But I really wanted to open today with this, well, with what I'm seeing about anxiety around time, something that I personally have lived with all my life and have gained a greater freedom around in recent years. Not because I minimized my schedule, not because of any external circumstance changing, but in simply prioritizing that deep rest of a quieter mind as a means to opening up the mental bandwidth to create in the world in a fresh way. So at this point, I'd love to take your questions or comments or anything that struck you in this sharing. You're welcome to write in the chat box or to come on. Michaela, thank you. And then Charlene.
Hey, Grace. Nice to see you.
You too.
This is this is a really great topic for me. At the beginning of last year, I said, okay, body, time, money. And the body has been unwinding itself for the last couple of years. And time is coming in so much more that I'm seeing it even happening upon you and this subject. So, and what you just said actually was helpful because I just said in a little group that I'm in that I'm going to, with my schedule, I could see that I was saying yes. Okay, now I have to laugh because I've just heard what I said, that I've been saying yes to these things that are so delightful for me, but it's taking up time that I need to spend on some things that I've committed to. And I can see that I'm actually really happy with the things that I've committed to, but there are some things that I'm required to do for it that I don't really know. You know, I was putting off because I didn't really know how, or I didn't know what. I was kind of blowing it up to some big thing in my mind. And then I had to be in the right space for it and all of that. But really what I saw in all of that was that what I was saying yes to that delighted me, that needed to happen. And funnily enough, the deadlines for some of the things that I was kind of putting off is this morning, and I'll do it after the call. And I'm actually feeling better prepared for it. I did some trial runs before the call. It's just a little video, but this whole idea about time, I read something in Sid's, the Quest for the Pearl, around the whole in time. And it was a different understanding of insight, like I had never heard an insight or realization described in this way before, that it is like time collapses, or there's no time. I have to go back and read it, but I'm just seeing what you're saying here today. It's like almost a space of where there's no time. And you drop into this deeper space and see something
Mhm.
that could not be seen in the timeline that we set out for ourselves typically, because it's so, I don't even know what it is. Forward, I don't even know really what it is. Very fast, very fast. So anyway, I don't really have a question. I think there's some things that are going to unwind. So time is huge for me. It's been a huge stumbling block. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Michaela. I mean, it sounds like it always sounds to me like you have clarity and insights as you speak and share. You know, you come to
Yes.
your own realization, which I think is brilliant. And that, yeah, what Sid was pointing to there is what I sense about us becoming present, because that's the place that we see something fresh, get the download, hear something new, you know, and that presence, you know, that presence is indicative of a quieter state of mind. You know, all the busyness, all the rushing, all the urgency is symptomatic of a mind that's going too fast, just like a fan belt, you know. And what I've noticed on my journey is I've just become really intolerant to that experience. I mean, I can't believe I used to live there that much. And you probably all are becoming a little intolerant to how you used to do things. That's a good thing. We're not here to be able to withstand high levels of stress. That's not the objective, right? You may have been able to tolerate high levels of urgency and stress in the past. If you can't tolerate that now, that is a sign of innate health coming forward. Because the game of life is not to get better at handling huger amounts of stress and urgency and anxiety. The game of life is to, as I see it, experience life in a way that elicits joy, enjoyment, purpose, passion, direction. So thank you, Michaela. That was a beautiful share for everyone to hear. Good. And I love that you're doing more of what you enjoy. Charlene.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm having a really interesting day
Mm-hmm.
because I woke up about 5:30 this morning because I was worried about something. And what is very unusual is that I had the presence of mind to be able to, and you and I have spoken about this privately, really access that part of my mind where I'm not really thinking much of anything at all. And when I access that mind, it just have the most euphoric bliss of relaxation and safety. And I felt like because I was able to shift into that place, bearing in mind I'm like bleary-eyed and tired, but bearing in mind that I was able to get into that place, I was able to really hear my divine mind, my divine voice. And it was all about trust, just trusting the flow of life, trusting the flow of business, just trusting. And it's been an amazing day of fresh downloads that I've been able to action straight away in the easiest way possible. And so, for example, I want to start writing. What's the easiest way for me to write? Well, it's for me to speak. So I'm using a speech to text app to get my writing out there. But even in all of this calm safety, listening to you has helped me realize where there's still a little bit of a tug on my attention in regards to time and all of the things that I've got to do.
Mm.
And it can feel irresponsible to let that go. It can feel like you're being a responsible human by thinking of things all the time, keeping it in mind so that you do it. And this clinic has really helped me to remember that I don't have to hold anything in my mind. I don't need tabs open so that when I go back to the browser in Chrome, I can see what I'm doing. That my system, I write things down, I've got, tools to help me get organized, but my system is designed to create things. Like, I'm not going to forget. And so, I wanted to go do some video stuff today. And to be honest with you, it's probably not going to happen today. And rather than say, well, I should have done that today, I'm just going to turn my attention to other things. Probably going to prepare a meal and go and see a film or whatever. But that feels really, really special to me. And I knew I needed to be in your presence because you have a way of even unpicking the space that I think I need to be in to help me descend even more into presence. So when I think I'm present, there's more presence to be had. So I want to say thank you. Thank you so much. I've got even more of a freedom around the things on my to-do list, But I can really select what I want to do. I can select when I'm going to do it. I don't have to have the gun to my head to ensure that I do it as if I'm inherently lazy or something. It's just not the case. So yeah, that's it.
That's beautiful, Charlene. I'm so pleased for you. I'm so pleased, you touch that space. We all touch this space so naturally. It's not a space that the world is going to encourage you to touch, because the world says you're lazy. What do you mean you're not doing anything? You're lazy, you got to be productive. It's interesting. I was reading Elle magazine earlier. My mum, ever since Francesco died, she sends me Elle from UK. It's so nice. And I was reading, and there was a woman writing an article about, how she was just basically shamed for living her life the way she lived it because she wasn't productive enough, and she had an opportunity with the writing agent and she didn't grab the bull by the horns with the opportunity, and she missed out on all of that. And she spoke with a mentor who shared with her, just about like productivity is interrelated with the consumer world. Productivity is, interrelated with our world of more, gimme.
Mm.
And I thought, how interesting, it's actually on the economy's side to keep us feeling like we're lazy and procrastinators and that we need more, because without that level of consumerism, well, the treadmill of consumerism, whatever, it starts to fall. So the world is not going to encourage the direction we are all looking in, just innocently. And that's why it can be a bit harder for us to trust ourselves, because we're like, what do you mean, Grace? What do you mean I should just relax when my mind is completely full, rather than address all the things I need to address? Well, because it won't take you long to drop into presence, just like Charlene described. There was a level of presence that she's living in. And she followed her wisdom. She's here, she's engaging the clinic, and she's discovered there's a whole other level of presence you can go to. Well, Sydney Banks said there's always another level. There's always another level on the elevator of consciousness. And that's hopeful. That's hopeful. So let's all be grateful for whatever presence we fall into. And let's just notice it a little more and more. And when we hear Bob telling us not to trust our urges, to relax, to eat a good meal, to switch the computer off, let's again just back off from that voice. Sometimes when we start our day with a prayer, or we move from activities with a prayer, you know, guide me on what's next. Show me what you'd have me do. Help me make the right choice at the restaurant tonight. Give me the correct words in this relationship. When I open the fridge, ensure that I choose the right thing. You know, guide my actions. That can help us fall into presence too. Sat.
I feel like I showed up here and like I need this so much. And I don't know most of you. I don't know if I think I've seen some of you in some of Grace's clinics. I'm actually a yogi, a yoga teacher, a musician, and my favorite thing in the world is to teach. And I have trouble teaching myself. And hearing what some of you have said, I have realized actually in the last couple of weeks how absolutely crazy my brain has been. And there's a lot going on. I'm about to take off for a 2-week trip and just so much pressure. And I feel like everything's on me. You know, it's like I have to take care of everything. And I'm constantly in overwhelm. And I keep coming across, and this is like the big coming across this evening with all of you, words of wisdom when I read, when I listen, that I actually am just beginning to stop beating myself up for not getting every single thing done exactly when I have some imagined time it's supposed to be done by. And this is helping me remind myself to not beat myself up. And what that beating myself up feels like, it's just like I feel like I'm in a tizzy. What should I do next? You know, because every single thing is screaming. It's Bob screaming at me from every direction. And sometimes I find that moment when I just stop and I just stop listening to all that noise. And then I find when I do that, there's something that opens up where I actually feel, even for a few minutes, really just, I know I'm in the right place at the right time, even if I'm just sitting at my kitchen table, even if I'm outside hanging laundry, whatever it may be, I feel like this is exactly what I need to be doing right now. And I am getting better at not judging myself. I've always felt like I had to do this, I had to be that. I do love being me, but I love being that me that is, I love who I am when I'm teaching. I feel so connected to the people that I'm with that when I'm teaching, and I'm learning from everybody I'm teaching at the same time that I'm teaching. And to me, that's why I feel like teaching is such a gift, because it's a time when I I'm teaching, but I feel like I'm the one who's learning. I'm the one who's being fed. And sometimes I thought, well, do I really want to schedule that class or that workshop? And I basically always take it on because that's my moment of grace. That's my moment of deep love and deep connection with my own soul and with everyone who I'm with. Usually it's on Zoom these days, but I always feel like there's no distance. There's no physical distance when we're together, even on Zoom. So I just want to thank Grace, and I want to thank all of you and those of you who've shared. I feel like we all know what we're all going through.
That's beautiful, Sadasat. Thank you. Thank you for coming on and sharing. And I really heard, that in your teaching, you become present.
I do. It's like everything else goes away.
Yeah. And that's the beauty, like that's the beauty of anything we can become present with or present to. Just, it's a healing agent. It quietens us down. It gives us the capacity to just get Bob out of the way. So it's wonderful you find that. Yeah, wonderful. Everyone has shared beautifully. So thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing what you're seeing. I'll make a little bit of space now that we can go into a meditation just to help us with the gun to our head about time. And I'll invite you at this point, if you'd like to go deeper on this particular direction, next Wednesday, March 1st, I will host a one-off workshop called Be Less Busy. Some of you are already signed up for that. I'm going to add the link here, or you can Facebook message me if you want to see more about, if you want to hear more about it. But ultimately, it's there to support you in getting more freedom from this anxiety about time and this judgment on everything that you're not doing enough of. And it'll be a lovely group. So it won't just be me sharing, it'll be, the group will be sharing. And so we learn from one another and we go deep with one another. So if that speaks to you, that one-off workshop's happening next Wednesday. It will be recorded. You don't have to be live. It'd be lovely if you can be live. And you can find the information on the Facebook link or message me. So unless there's another question, except I did see Beverly writing in, I heard so much of me in this, being busy and trying to get more done and worrying that I'm not getting enough done. Oh, the irony. Yeah, it takes practice to let go of this thinking, but it's happening. Thank you, Grace. Okay, well, thank you, Beverly. You're the one that's seeing more deeply around that. So I love that you're getting some freedom there. So just join me now as we take some time to touch that space of presence without so many words and without so much on it. So I just invite you to mute your lines. I think most of you are muted. Yeah, I'll just mute your lines. Here we go. And as we go into this, don't worry so much about getting answers, because sometimes that can activate a busy mind. Just go into this one with the intention that you become more present and fall more deeply into that feeling of trust. So as we close our eyes now, we just begin to take some breaths to the count of 4. In, 2, 3, 4. And out, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4. And out, 2, 3, 4. Feel the body relaxing as you keep that rhythm going. Feel yourself becoming present. Just notice, without judgment, the belly rise and fall as you're breathing to the count of 4. And see roots now coming from your feet, down through the ground, down into the underground, and right down to that rock at the bottom of the earth, and wrap those roots around that rock. Feel yourself stabilizing physically and mentally, becoming centered. Golden light emanates from the rock, up through the roots, through the underground, the ground, in through the floorboards, and up into your feet. And very gently now, this golden light of your true nature, holding healing energy within it, begins to move up through the body, circulating the feet and the ankles, up through the shins, the back of the calves, up to the kneecaps, circling the kneecaps, up through the thighs, the front and the back, up into the buttocks and the hips and the sexual organs, circulating all of that area. And gently up now through the torso and the back of the spine. And up through the chest, right up to the throat and the back of the neck, and circulating your neck. And on up now, up through the face, the back of the head, all the way up to the top of the head, and gently down through the hair, down through the neck, out through the shoulders, down through the arms, the elbows, the lower arms, the wrists, and down into the hands and out through the fingertips. The whole body emanating this golden elixir of light. Every cell filled with this healing light. Breathe into that feeling, into that space where there is nowhere to rush to, nothing for you to attend to but this moment. Just present, receiving this light. And now considering some things that are on your plate, I invite you to call on your spiritual team to help you with that. So often we're efforting alone when there's a whole team of energy in the wings that cannot act on your behalf without an invitation, but who are ready and able to support you with all that's in front of you. So you don't need to know who's on your spiritual team, but you might have someone or something that you deeply believe in and connect with. So you can call upon that energy now, mentally, and just visually hand over the situation, placing the situation in their hands. And thanking them for support in bolstering up your motivation, inspiration, energy to complete or to produce or to create or to attend to at the right time everything that needs done. Continuing to breathe deeply, knowing that you're well taken care of. Let your mind come back now to just noticing the feeling you're in. Free from urgency, free from pressure, free from the gun to your head. And get familiar with that feeling of presence and healing. Deep rest. Letting yourself relax deeply. Letting yourself off the hook around judgment for not doing enough, or not doing it by now. Knowing that life's got the timeline, not you. And as we get out of the way a bit, relax and enjoy a bit more deeply, we're filled up and fueled up and moved by life to what we need to do. If there's truly something that needs done. See those roots now coming from your feet, down through the ground, down into the underground, and right down to that rock at the bottom of the earth. And wrap those roots around that rock, centered, stable, present. And begin to move your fingers and toes ever so slightly, coming back to this moment without rushing, gently into the body more deeply, and opening your eyes when you're ready. And I look forward to seeing you all on the next coaching clinic in 2 weeks' time. You'll get a notification about that, and spending time going more deeply with you next Wednesday, alongside a gorgeous meditation for that one. Lots of love, everybody. Take care.